Well, I appreciate everyone coming on board and making the sacrifice of time. There's an old one-liner that time is money, but time is not money. I can always make more money, but I can't make more time. And as salespeople, sales leaders, sales professionals, time is likely our most precious commodity. So I appreciate you investing it with us. A couple of things from a logistics point of view. Will be 55 to 60 minutes. We'll probably take you to the hour. We won't go over the hour. We'll try to keep to that time commitment. Everyone comes in muted. Use questions like a crazy person if you want, because we got a team of 2 people plus Jody and I auditing the questions for this. We tend to move fast. I know many of you have been on my webinar. I tend to speak fast and move fast. It is being recorded, and our teams will work with you a little bit on the recording. So, Jody, if you want to take it from here, I'll let you sort of set the stage.
Yeah, and then the purpose, let's just to make sure we're all on the same page, is to be better at prospecting, and that's what the Wildly Successful System is all about. We could talk for days, John, about this, obviously, but it's really, we have 1 hour, and we have a mix of attendees today. As we can see, we're doing some shout outs to people that we know here. And so if you're new to Sandler, it's all going to be new, but many of you are currently Sandler clients and veterans. So today could be a kind of a reminder. It could be a kind of a bring you back to what you knew and what you've forgotten. And really, if you look at knowledge, skills, and habits, it's you may have the knowledge of some of the things that we're talking about today, but do you have the skills and the habits to become a prospecting machine and continue working on that? So our agenda for today. So whether you're a veteran or you're new, or just take it however it fits for you today. So the agenda is this: we're going to talk about the attitudes, behaviors, techniques of prospecting and the Sandler success triangles. If we look at behavior, attitude, and technique, this is a kind of a centering visual we use for a lot of these conversations throughout Sandler, but certainly with prospecting. And today we're going to drill down into these. So the ideal outcome for today is that you get a 10x. So John, to your point, if time is money, and we say, and we'll be conservative, that people are making $100 an hour. Many of you are making 1,000 if you figure it out, whatever it's going to be. But we want a 10x. So let's say you're making $100 an hour. I want everyone on this call to walk out with a $1,000 idea minimum. So your investment of time has a payoff. At the end of the call, we'll also talk about some potential next steps if you want to learn more about prospecting the Sandler way. So let's do some quick intros here officially, John. I'll introduce you, and we've known each other for what, 25 years, something like that?
24 years.
Yeah. So John is the author of Prospect the Sandler Way. He's a 25-year Sandler veteran. He has won the David H. Sandler Award, which is one of the highest awards in the entire world of sales training, certainly within Sandler. Very limited number of people are honored with that award. And going back to the summit, John's always a standing room only guy. So anytime, if you have those dates on the calendar for next year, get an early seat for John and stuff, because it's always a sellout. And John has for decades now run a couple of the most successful Sandler offices in our global network. And so on top of all that, he's a really good friend. We've had a lot of conversations over the years, John, and I can't imagine a topic we have not talked about, even the controversial topics we talk about on Saturday mornings and stuff. So I appreciate us getting together today.
You're right, and the same on Jody. Jody is a best-selling author of a Sandler book called The Contrarian Salesperson, which you should absolutely pick up, along with Asking Questions the Sandler Way by Antonio Garrido. And if you want some reinforcement, we're going to give you a number of ways, including some ways at the end to learn more about prospecting, but my book, Prospect the Sandler Way, as well. Jody has been, again, a speaker at almost every summit, always the highest level award winners, certainly a great friend and my accountability partner not moving forward, my accountability partner for the last 24 years. So it's, but this is the first webinar we've hosted together, so I appreciate it. And on that note, what I want to do is get a sense as to what the payback is. So whether you're managing a team or whether it's you, let's ask this question. Not getting in front of enough qualified prospects is costing me or my team about round numbers. So go ahead and see if you can fill in that poll. It should be in front of you. Is it costing you Yeah, that's 0 to 100 to 10 grand. Is it costing you 10 to 50, 50 to 100, 35 to a million plus? What I usually like to do is get about 85% of the poll going. So I'm going to ask you to sort of crank it as much as you can. We've got 40% of the folks voting. So let's get it on out. 50% voting, so just get it on out. We'll see what we got. A couple of folks are throwing in some numbers on questions if they're not in front of the poll, like 100 grand. 61% of the people voted. I'm going to close the poll in about 10 seconds. So get your vote in. We're just about tipping we're just about touching 70% voted. So get it done, and I'm going to close it in 5 seconds. Pretty even split. Very interesting. All right, we made it past 70. Very cool. I'm going to close the polls. And I'll share it with you. So what you should be able to see on your screen is it's pretty mixed. I mean, we see almost a quarter. There's 4% of us who may be leaving 10,000 on the table or less, but a full 28% saying, hey, listen, the numbers are getting high, 500,000 plus, 100 to 500. So we're talking decent money. And like Jody, our commitment today is to be able to do our best to get a 10x investment and show you where we're going from here. So what you may want to do is let's talk a little bit about the attitude, behavior, technique. We're going to take it in this order: attitude, behavior, then technique. And Jody, if you want to define attitude for us, that could help.
Yeah, can you share? Yeah, go back and share the regular screen. I'm not seeing that.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, my fault. Exactly right. Beautiful.
There we go. Yeah. So
yep.
So if we look at you know, the mindsets and attitudes of prospecting success, we really look at attitude, and we look at, okay, what's the definition of attitude? And if you pull it up, you know, online, and if you had a dictionary, I don't know if they still make them, but if you had a dictionary and you turn to attitude, this is what you'd see. And so, you know, a ballet position, I guess, and, you know, parts of the body or figure or posture. But the one I think that we're really talking about here is the fourth one, a mental position with regard to a state or a fact, or a feeling or emotion toward a state or a fact. And I find that with prospecting specifically, there can be this mindset and attitude around it which can negate people's effectiveness. And I really do believe, just like every area of life, prospecting fits into that bucket, that attitude really is such a key factor. And without attitude, the behavior and technique are kind of irrelevant. So John, you know, I know you have some
Sure.
thoughts on this too.
Well, and if I go backwards, if I take a look at the success triangle, I really like this model. I'm going to point out a couple things I want you to take out. This model is one. Now, some of you have seen it because you've been clients of ours, but the beautiful thing about this is if you want to be great in a role, I want to be a great salesperson. What are the attitudes, the behaviors, the techniques? If you want to be great at a competency, I want to be a great prospector. I want to be great at getting past decision makers. I want to be great at sending LinkedIn emails, you name it. What are the attitudes, the behaviors, and the techniques? If I want to be great in a single situation, I'm about to call the president of Westinghouse, made up stuff. What are the attitudes, behaviors, techniques I need to be effective? And so one is I want you to get the success triangle. Two is I want you to get the belief wheel. This belief wheel has probably helped me more than anything in my 25 years. And what it says is things that we believe. That's your attitude. Belief is what you feel, think, or believe, right? That's your attitude, what you feel, think, or believe. Your belief leads to your judgments. Judgments are not what you believe, it's what you think other people believe. Now, based upon what you believe and other people believe, that leads to actions. And actions lead to results. And then usually those results reinforce our original belief. Here's an example. 25 years ago, I buy the Sandler business and I put a phone line in my basement in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh, and I got to make 30 cold calls a day, and I hate making cold calls. And Sandler tells me, David Sandler, then alive, says, John, you need to book 10 appointments a week. That first week, I make 150 dials. I talk to 50 people, because back then, in 1994, you can get a hold of people, and I get 0 appointments. And I say, David, I'm looking, listen, I'm an English major, but I need help. Right? I booked 0 appointments. If I booked 1, well, then I know I need to make 1,500 appointments. I mean, I did 150 dials. I know I need 1,500 dials. Well, I don't know if that's going to happen. David said, are you asking for referrals? off of these cold calls? I said, no, of course not. He said, why not? I said, because people are not even staying on the phone with me for more than 5 seconds sometimes. No one is going to give me a referral. By the way, and if you want to try using your questions, this is a good place to use that. By the way, saying that, that's a what? By me saying, no one's going to give me a referral, that's a what? Just use your question. See if someone can type in the answer. Right? When I say no one's going to give me a referral, that's a belief, is exactly right. Now, what David Sandler said to me is, John, are you telling me that because you've asked several times and nobody ever did, or you just know? David, I just know. He said, you're competitive, John? I said, I'm competitive. He said, I'll tell you what, why don't we place a bet, small wager. Let's say you do it for the next 3 weeks. You'll probably talk to 50 people each week, 150 people. If no one gives you a referral, never do it again. You're right, I'm wrong, you win the bet. Deal? Sure. Now, I don't believe it's going to work. And I say, David, what should I say? He said, the next time he said, can you get a no? I said, oh, I can get a no. I can get a no. He said, next time someone gives you a no, say this. Jody, it doesn't sound like I can help you. Maybe you can help me. If you were me in my business, any recommendations of other business owners, suppliers, vendors, partner companies, similar to you that may be open to a couple of minute conversation, not unlike the one we had? Okay. I make my first call to Helen Alex. And the only reason why I called Helen Alex, she was in the Bethel Park Chamber of Directory. It was alphabetically located by last name. She was the first name, Alex, Helen. I go through some of my heart at the time. My tonality is terrible, but I say, hi, Helen, this is John Rosso. I'm looking for just a little bit of help. I don't know if it's going to make sense to talk. Why don't I tell you the reason why I'm calling, and then maybe you and I can talk further if that's okay? Sure. And I go through my 30-second commercial. She goes, oh my gosh, no, I'm not interested at all. Does anybody actually buy that? And I said, Helen, not yet. And she said, good luck to you. And now I'm stuck. I'm at Wimp Junction. I got to fight my head trash. I got to fight my belief system. And I get my courage up and I say, Helen, let me ask you this. It doesn't sound like it can help you. Maybe you can help me. If you were me in my business, sales training, sales coaching, any recommendations of people in your network, in your circle, business owners, who you think might be open-minded to a couple of minute conversation, not dissimilar to the one we had? It could be a supplier. And she said, I can't think of anybody. I said, could be a supplier, could be a partner company, could be a customer. And she gives me 3 customers. One of them became my first client. That client has led to, that referral tree has spawned millions of dollars of business just by getting out of my own way, right? So beliefs lead to judgments lead to actions lead to results. Now I got a quick question for you. I'm going to throw one more poll up.
And John, just one thing to add too is
yeah, please go ahead.
No, as you pull the poll up, it's when you talk about the conversation with Sandler, it's like the one thing you didn't mention that he probably said some form of is, when you asked for a referral on your last prospecting call, they must have said, well, I didn't ask. So it's like, okay. But so much
That's exactly right.
So much of that head trash gets in the way, right? And it's just like, it can be paralyzing. I mean, we're kind of making light of it here, but it can be paralyzing having these beliefs that it just overrides everything we've learned. Because at that point, you had learned everything to say. You knew how to ask for a referral.
That's right. It's a brain disconnect. So we got 50% of the people voting. So listen, if you really want to make a change, what do you think has to change? First, beliefs or actions? We've got 50% of the people voted. Let's see if we can get to 65. Vote away. There seems to be a clear winner going on. I'm going to close the poll in 4 seconds. We're over 65, which is nice. I'll close the poll. I will share the poll. 77% beliefs, 23% actions. All right, here's the hard news. The answer is not beliefs. Let me say it again. The answer is not beliefs. The answer will be actions. If you really want to make a change, it's going to be in actions. Remember, I didn't believe this would work. It didn't matter that I believed it would work. If I waited till I believed, right, think about this. When I first joined Sandler, I said to myself, I hate making cold calls. If I waited till I believed that I loved making cold calls, when would I make a call? Never. So the rule is this, and I want you to get the rule. The rule is you cannot, in prospecting, in life, but in prospecting, you cannot let the way you feel determine the way you act. Instead, let the way you act determine the way you feel. In prospecting, and Jody's going to talk about actions and behaviors, you've got to feel the fear and do it anyway. You've got to find a way to make a habit. Because again, if you always done what you always did, you always get what you always got. And the only way to break out of the comfort zone is by letting your behavior drive your attitude, or behavior drive motivation. Let me throw it back to you, Jody, to talk a little bit about behavior. So behavior, to me, is really, it's what, if attitude's what you think or feel or believe, behavior is what you do. It's how you put together your goals, your strategies, your plans, your actions. And I'll let you take it from here to talk a little bit about behavior, Jody.
Yeah, and it's it's funny because they're so tied together. And what you just mentioned, it's not how you feel that determines how you act. It's how you act determines how you feel. This morning I did an early morning gym run, and my attitude going there for a 5 a.m. start was not. But once I got into it, it was like, wow, like my whole mindset changed. So some of that activity does change the whole attitude piece, but it's that consistent behavior that we really have to be focused on. So I'm going to get really tactical for a bit here, and then we're going to spend a good amount of time on technique for the call also. But so behavior is the goals, the plans, the tracking, and the fine tuning that we do along the way. And with prospecting specifically, I have found that the most successful prospectors are very locked down when it comes to behavior. For the mediocre prospector, or the ones who don't, they prospect kind of when they have a little window of time. It's when they say, I got a busy day, but maybe I'll get some cold calls in today, or prospecting calls, or ask for referrals, or whatever prospecting looks like for you. The mindset for the mediocre prospectors is they kind of just get to it when they have some time. And the problem with that is that because for most people, prospecting isn't the most fun thing, they typically have Parkinson's law kick in, and Parkinson's law says work expands to fill the time allotted. So if I have a day's worth of regular work to do, and my reward to myself at the end of the day is I get to make prospecting calls and have people hang up on me and get a bunch of no's and deal with all that rejection, guess what happens, right? My work that was going to be 8 hours of work now becomes 10 hours, and I get to the end of the day and say, I got too busy today, I'll prospect tomorrow. And that's like that old saying, free beer tomorrow. It just never comes. And so with this specifically, I want to just give a couple examples of what some behavior tools can be. And for those of you on the call that are Sandler veterans, you know the term cookbook, and a cookbook is the behavioral plan. It's that group of activities that you measure on a daily, weekly, sometimes quarterly, monthly basis, depends on the activity, and it becomes that regular that regular measurement and that regular behavior and actions that over time create the result. And using the gym analogy I just thought of, it's like, you don't really change your physical body in one visit to the gym. It's that consistent, ongoing actions in the cookbook. So if you have a cookbook for physical health, for physical fitness, there's a certain exercise and diet regime. If you just follow it, you're going to see results. And it's no different in prospecting. So here's an example of someone who has a cookbook that is kind of well-rounded. It's someone who does some prospecting, which is attaining existing customers, is more servicing, or in Sandler speak, it's keeping and expanding. And so you can see a mix in here. But for the purposes of today, we're really talking about the ones that I circled here, which are attain dials, so brand new dials and conversations and setting appointments, asking for referrals, which you just touched on, John, and then also LinkedIn searches for new contacts to be able to reach out to. And having something that we're not only having as our center point. So the cookbook is like I wake up in the morning and that's my kind of my guiding principle. But then it comes in a key to track it. So tracking, for you may be listening to this, anyone on this call might be using Salesforce or some kind of automated way to track things. And I appreciate the value of having that electronically done. There's not a lot of paperwork. It just kind of just happens. But a couple things with that. Many people don't input everything, so they don't have a good indication of what they're doing. But something's different when I have to actually write it down. And this may seem like kindergarten level, like this is 1970 kind of stuff, but I've seen no better way for someone to really have it sink in their hard drive, if they're doing the behavior or not, than handwriting out some recaps of their day. So Wally Week Closer we have here, right? This old David Sandler name. Wally Week Closer, you can see here, is doing 75 dials the first week and 81 the second and 62 the third, but the goal was 100. Having 8 conversations in the first week and setting 2 appointments, holding one. So the point is not Wally's number. The point is, what are your numbers? And these are just suggested measurements. You may say, you know, dials aren't my world. I do something else. Whatever it is that drives your prospecting engine, it's what are you going to commit to? Because it really becomes, if the goal is to do, just pick a number, round number, $1 million or whatever. Now, what are the actions I have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that are going to get me to achieve that goal? Very much like if we had a physical fitness goal, we say, okay, I want to weigh that and I want my cholesterol to be that by this date. Okay, now what do I need to do on a daily basis to make that happen? So tracking is key. So the problem is a lot of people set the goal and then they don't keep tracking it. And just a bit of a best practice here, if you've ever seen CNBC during the day and you want a really quick glance if the markets are up or down, and you can look here and green is up, red is down, you can tell on this day it's basically a flat market. Imagine if those weren't color-coded. You'd have to look at each one of them and then make this analysis. Okay, are they up or down? And this, in a quick glance, gives it to you. So when you're tracking, this is from one of our clients from a few years ago, one of their tracking sheets, and they were measuring dials and conversations and new appointments and cross sells. And at a glance, I could look at my own numbers at these reminders and say, okay, the greens I'm doing, what's up with those reds? Why on an application submitted in my world have I had one green box all these weeks? And this is hard because this is like the brutal truth. This is like getting on the scale and saying, uh-oh, what happened, right? But the scale is actually the sales. The measuring everything that led to the sales, to the scale reading is really what Cookbook is. So being able to look at this and saying, okay, like why are my applications submitted down? And then we can start backtracking. Am I not asking the right questions? Am I not closing? What might it be in the process? And then one last thing with behavior, John, I just want to talk about this, so relevant now. These stats that I've been sharing with a lot of our clients is an average person looks at their phone 150 times a day. The average person is in a task for 1 minute and 15 seconds before they're interrupted with something. And then it takes 25 minutes on average to get back to the task. So with prospecting specifically, because it isn't the most fun thing to do, we can almost invite interruptions into our world that will then get us out of doing something that we might not always want to do. I would recommend 2 things with this. It's time blocking and space blocking. And time blocking is blocking chunks of time in the calendar. So instead of saying I'm going to get some prospecting done this week, it's okay on Saturday, on Tuesday morning, from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m., I'm doing a prospecting block. And from 4 to 5 on Thursday, or 5 to 6 on Thursday, I'm doing a prospecting block. And I found best practice, the best prospectors almost always do some blocking. It's not random. And space blocking, really space blocking comes to, where's our physical space? It might sound trivial, but it's really hard for many people to make their prospecting calls in the place where they do their admin paperwork, computers, emails. It's something about it for most people. They got to like go somewhere. It could be a conference room, it could be off-site, it could be their car, but space blocking is really key, because if we go back to these numbers of the chart here, if we know it's 1 minute and 15 seconds before I'm interrupted, there's a high degree of likelihood that people's offices are a highly disrupted, interrupted environment with their phone and their email and someone walking in. So I'd highly suggest both time blocking and space blocking as a way to really increase the likelihood of success. You put that together with Cookbook and tracking, and you just have some best practices that can work.
Yeah, and I'll make a couple. Yeah, I'll make a couple just of tiny comments, but I think consistency is king. Consistency is king. If you've not read Atomic Habits by James Clear or Willpower Won't Work or Doesn't Work by Benjamin Hardy, those are two good books that talk about things like space blocking and how important the environment is. I'm an early bird. I'm not a late bird, but I am an early bird. I don't check my email until after 8 a.m. By then, I've already sent out 2 prospecting emails and 2 prospecting LinkedIn in-mails every single business day that I'm working. And just that technique, and we'll talk about it in a moment, generates me in a 1.5 appointments a week. And that is like clockwork. The same way I brush my teeth and or take a shower as a morning habit, I've got a habit on my electronic side, and then I've got to be able to time block extra time and hours to make some dials during the week. So I think
and on that distraction side, I mean, that's a great best practice. Attitude. I just want to highlight that though, John. Having that not checking email first thing is so important. My rules, as you know, is 90 minutes. So I'm not looking at email for the first 90 minutes, and think of all those things you can do. And to have that behavior as a consistent behavior, it is like brushing your teeth for you. You don't even think about it. You just do it.
Yep. Yeah. And listen, you're going to screw up, forgive yourself, and get back on the horse, because I would rather have someone who's consistent in behavior and average in technique rather than someone who's a technique genius. I mean, oh my gosh, we all wish we were her or him, but they're not making the calls or not doing the behavior. And so the success triangle, which again, Jody just brought up here, and we're going to talk about technique, one of our one-liners is make sure you're not working on the wrong end of the problem. So think about the success triangle. Think about the belief wheel. Think about your head trash. Our definition of head trash is, it's an old Mark Twain saying that it's not what you don't know that hurts you, it's what you know for sure that just ain't so, like I wasn't going to get a referral. Make sure you thought about your cookbook. What are the 100% controllable activities? Make sure you've thought and make a decision at the end of this call on time blocking and space blocking. Jody, if you want to introduce technique, I can take it from there once you give us a little bit of an intro.
Yeah. So, and that's a good setup, is that, once we have all this together, now it's like, okay, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? Like, how's that going to work? And whether it's a cold calling technique or an email technique, and I know you've made some really great progress on how to use LinkedIn and how to use emails and some of the slight edge stuff that you've done and the things you talk about in your book. It really becomes that part of, okay, now rubber meets the road. What am I going to do? And it's really, what do you say? How do you act? And even with little things within technique, and I really want you to elaborate some of your principles in the book, but even the little things like tonality. I mean, if I can just, you talk about slight edge. If I can just get someone's tonality right, if I can just get them in a place where they don't sound like the stereotypical salesperson, they don't put people into an automatically defensive position, that one thing alone, they can have a really messed up script, they can have a mediocre commercial, but if their tonality, I'd rather have someone with a really good tonality and a mediocre script than someone with the perfect script and commercial, but not a good tonality. And you will make or break that call in the first few seconds of that call. And to know and to remind ourselves that 83% of the way they're reading us on a call is the tonality, and 17% is the actual script. So it's pretty much all tonality. And with all the things you're going to talk about here, we got to remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why I went 0 for 150 or 0 for 50 conversations my first week was not because of the template or the script or the wording, because David Sandler himself helped me create it. It was all because of the tonality, and prospects are like Doberman, and they can smell fear, and they smelled me a mile away, and tonality is 83% of that call. And so if you think about the tonality, here's the mistakes. People are sing-songy. Oh, hey, Jody, John Russo, just wanted to reach out and have a conversation. Cotton candy. Usually where you see cotton candy and Mother May I is on a voicemail where it sounds like this. Hey, Jody, John Rosso from ABC. Hey, I just wanted to reach out to you and have a quick conversation and see if you've given any thoughts to wringing out costs from your supply chain. We're a top supply chain supplier here in the metro Chicago area. I would certainly appreciate maybe just a few minutes of your time. If you get a moment, if you can give me a quick blah. I *7'd you long ago. All right. So that's that mother may I needy kind of conversation.
It's so childlike, right? It's like so childlike.
It is. It is. And so we say be unjust because even when you're following up, it's such a miserable voice. I'm too tuned to it, so I'm a little bitter, so hang on with me. But, hey, I just wanted to follow up. There's no reason why you need the word just. Hey, Jody, I'm following up, but just makes us that child. It makes us less than. And HAYT is how are you today, right? Typical call, 80% plus, ring, ring, ring. This is Jody. Oh, hi, Jody. John Rosso here at ABC. How are you today? Which is, by the way, very different than this. Hey, Jody, John Rosso, have you been? That's a different thing. So the tonality, the tonality needs to be what we would call business edge. A voice of authority, right? It's the same way I talk to my kids when I'm not angry. So, for instance, here's the structure of a call. Right, a structure, and if you can get this down, so this is one of the things I want you to get. If you can get this down, you are going to be able to use it on the phone, with referrals, in an email, in a LinkedIn in-mail, when you're networking. It's a module that really helps you, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a moment. But here's the structure. Pattern interrupt. I'm going to give you examples of each. Pattern interrupt means anything other than. Oh, hey, Jody, John Rosso from ABC. How are you today? Find some way to interrupt that pattern. This thing called a mini upfront contract is how we're setting the ground rules and selling a 3 to 5 minute conversation. And then making this thing called a personal connection, fishing for their pain, developing that pain, closing for the appointment, setting the appointment, and then post-selling it so that all the appointments or most appointments are kept and there's no back out. So let me take it one step at a time. What I want you to listen to is the tonality. My youngest son's name is Joe, so I used his name. But here's how I would call my son Joe if I wasn't angry. Hey, Joe, come here. Hey, Joe, come here. Hey, Joe, come here. That's what I would say if I'm not angry. Ring, ring, ring. This is Joe. Hey, Joe, John Rosso. Same tonality.
Yep.
Ring, ring, ring. Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe, John Rosso. Hey, Joe, I'm looking for a little bit of help. I'm not sure yet if it's going to make sense for us to talk. That's an example only of one pattern interrupt. It's one I happen to like because, you know what? I am looking for help. I am John Rosso, and I don't know if it makes sense for us to talk.
Totally.
So I like it. Now, there are other people who say this. This is Joe. Hey, Joe. John Rosso here. If I told you I was making a cold call, would you want to hang up? Well, probably. Well, I'm glad I didn't tell you I was making a cold call. I mean, people have fun with it. This is my style. You're allowed to do it. By the way, you can skip this. If you went straight to the upfront contract, it would work. So let me put mine together. This is Jody. Hey, Jody, John Rosso. Jody, I'm looking for a little bit of help. I don't know if it's going to make sense for us to talk. I'm going to go to the second one. Jody, I'm reaching out to you for 2 specific reasons. Let me tell you what they are, and then you and I can decide if it's going to make sense to meet. Is that okay? Sure. Right. So the mini upfront contract, what I'm using there is I'm agreeing on a little bit of time, maybe a minute or two, right? And we're coming to the agreement at the end of that we're going to decide do we want to talk further or not. This is called the no pressure call because there's no pressure. Now, I really like the term 2 specific reasons. If anybody can sort of type in the question, why do you think I like the term 2 specific reasons? I really like to say, hey, Joe, I'm reaching out to you for 2 specific reasons. By the way, this works really well on a call, on a voicemail as well. But see if you can type in anybody. Why does that typically work well? Something like it gets attention. Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Keeps it simple and clear. Absolutely, Lewis. And you know what else it creates? It's disarming, Sean. You're a genius. I love you, Sean. It creates it doesn't give them a lot to think about. Exactly. And you know what, Frank? It creates a little bit of curiosity. Well, what are the 2 reasons? Right? Hey, Mark, I'm reaching out for you 2 reasons. Sorry, don't want to hear them. Now, let me ask you to do something else, especially the people who don't know us in the Sandler world yet. If I start the call by saying, Hey, Joe, John Rosso. Hey, Joe, I'm looking for just a little bit of help. I don't know yet if it's going to make sense for us to talk. Uh, why don't I tell you the reason why I'm calling, and then you and I can decide if it makes sense to talk further, if that's okay. Sure. Take a shot. If you don't know us, type in, what percentage of people say, sure, go ahead, or sure, that would be fine, or yeah, sure, go. So some version of yes. What percentage do you think that is? Now, if you've not made this call, we may be way off. So take a shot. Good, I'm getting numbers like 70, 90, 85, good numbers. It should be, if you've got decent tonality, it should be 95. Kevin, I know you said 33, not even close. Even if you're not good at it, you're going to get 80. Right? It's an amazing phenomenon.
Said, it's like tonality.
Yeah, and I've not even given you my company. For all you know, I'm calling to complain or to give you a referral or to buy a lot of stuff.
Yep.
So it really is what it's doing is selling me a 3 to 5 minute conversation. Now, if you want to increase your conversation to appointments, especially if you're doing email, is if you can do a personal connection. Now, let me tell you what I mean by a personal connection. We won't have time to go into how you research these today, but a personal connection could be as simple as a referral. Now, here's how you squander a referral. Ring, ring, ring. This is Joe. Oh, hey, Joe, John Rosso at ABC. How are you today? Fine. Hey, listen, I got your name from Jody Williamson. I got your name. What is this, MCI Friends and Family from 2001? So you got to be better than that. What it would sound like is, hey, Joe, John Rosso. Joe, I'm looking for a little bit of help. I'm not sure it's going to make sense for you and I to talk. I'm calling you for two specific reasons. Let me tell you what they are. And then let's you and I figure out if we should talk further, if that's going to work for you. Sure. Hey, first reason is I had a nice conversation with Jody Williamson. He and I got around to talking about the kind of work he does with your organization. He thought it might be important we speak, and I promised him I would reach out to you. Man, how nice is that? Right? So that would be a referral. That's easy. It might be research about a person. If I know that Joe just wrote an article on predictive analytics in the safety world in Safety Weekly, right? It would sound like this. I'm reaching out for you two specific reasons. Let me tell you what they are. Hey, first reason, Joe, is I had a chance to read your article on predictive analytics in Safety Weekly. I especially like the way your organization is using data to make decisions. All of a sudden, this is not a cold call, right? And if you can't find something about the person, find something recent and relevant about the news about the company you're calling, right? They acquired a new plant. They opened up a new business in Lordstown, Ohio. This doesn't help you get the conversation. You've got the conversation, but it really helps the conversion. By the way, this helps in in-mails, emails, and voicemails as well. Here's an example of a voicemail. Ring, ring, ring. You've reached Joe's voicemail. Hey, Joe, John Rosso. Joe, I'm doing a little bit of research on you and your organization. Had a chance to read the article that you wrote in Safety Weekly on predictive analysis and how your business is using it. I'm calling you for two reasons. I've got a question for you. I think it may be important we speak. Call me. It's John Rosso, 412-928-9933. Jody, it's John Rosso, 412-928-9933. Click. No pleases, no thank you, nothing. Right? That's probably going to get you 30%, 40% callbacks. Now, it won't get as good if you don't have a personal connection. Same thing with regard to emails, and I'll show you that in a moment. So that's the intro, right? The intro is pattern interrupt, mini upfront contract, personal connection. Then we got to structure our pain statements. This was just had a nice conversation with Dave Mattson. He thought it might be important we speak. Structuring the pain statements is about telling third-party stories. So here's an example. We got to do this quick. If you can type, I'm going to ask you to type in a couple things. If you can type in a typical title of a decision maker that you work with. Could be a VP of operations, could be a safety manager, it could be a CIO, it could be an owner or president. Steve, you're great at typing. So Steve, that logistics director of supply chain, these are great, right? Next thing I want you to do is type in one. Actually, do this for me quickly. Just type in 2 problems that you solve for them. Like again, if I'm Michael and I'm dealing with an HR manager, what problems does he have that if he worked with Michael and Michael's company no longer exists? What's some of the things that you're dealing with? Job fit. Give me another one, Michael, besides job fit. Yeah, these are good. Keep them coming. Lack of communication, team conflict. All right, I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. Everybody keep typing because you'll have this. Michael, write down what's the impact of not doing a good job on job fit to the HR professional and the company. What's the impact of not doing a good job? Employee turnover. Nice. And what's the impact of team conflict, turnover and morale? So let me show you how the game works, right? So I don't know anything about Michael's business. I don't even know what business he's in. Michael, actually, tell me a little bit about the business you're in. Do you do HR software? What do you guys do at PeopleSurge? Background checks. Got it. So here would be an example. Ring, ring, ring. This is Joe, the HR manager. Hey, Joe, John Rosso. Joe, I'm looking for a little bit of help. I don't know if it's going to make sense for us to talk. I am reaching out to you for a couple specific reasons. Let me tell you what they are, and then let's figure out if we should talk further, if that's okay. Sure, John, what's up? Michael, I'm with an Michael, I'm with an organization, PeopleSurge. I spend all of my time with HR directors in the transportation industry, like you. We're a background search. We're an applicant tracking background search company. When I spend my time with HR organizations, here's what I find. They've put a lot of best practices in place, and they've developed a people-centric organization where they're sometimes frustrated. That was my stroke, by the way. Where they're sometimes frustrated is we've put together job descriptions and job profiles, but it's not always easy to sort of match the resume to the competency fit. And so now we're bringing employees on, which don't seem to really do the job we need. And now we're getting turnover, and turnover is costing us money. Or maybe we're doing a good job on job fit. What we're finding is we're bringing people who can get the job done, but they're not necessarily getting along with their teammates. And so there's conflict. And so all of a sudden, what we find is morale is decreasing, productivity's dropping. Michael, before I go too much further, any of that stuff ever been an issue in your life? Is it worth a 2 to 3 minute conversation? Heck, I barely know nothing about what Michael's doing, yet I was able to produce a relatively decent, although first time out of my mouth, template based upon pattern interrupt, mini contract, personal connection, and then structured my stroke pain impacts. We've got something here. It's called a 30-second commercial. Who do you work with, Michael? I work with HR managers. What issues can you solve? Job fit. What's the second issue? Team conflict. What's the third issue? Whatever. Hey, to the right side? Job fit means what? Well, turnover. Employee conflict means what? Low morale and productivity. By using a simple format, I was able to sort of construct that. And then I move into something called the hook question. You know, Michael, I don't want to pretend to say I know your specific business. Am I hot? Am I cold? Or, Michael, have any of these things been an issue? Are they worth maybe a 3 to 4 minute conversation? And now I'm selling another 3 to 4 minute conversation. If he goes, as a matter of fact, employee engagement has been on our mind a lot, and I think it's because morale has been an issue. Now I relax and I say, Michael, help me understand. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Could you be a little bit more specific? Can you give me kind of a real life example? And because of that, what happened? And then you get a chance to close for the appointment. He's now talked for 4.5 minutes about his challenge, not about you, because no one cares about you. And you might go back to your authoritative parent, and I might say this, Michael, do this for me, nurturing. Michael, do this for me. Take a look at your calendar. Let's find ourselves a 30-minute time slot over the next 1, 2, 3 weeks, where we can put some time on the calendar. I can get you out a GoToMeeting invite. You and I could spend a little bit of time talking about your organization, talking about the things you've tried to deal with employee engagement. I can share with you how we've worked with our clients, some of the key tools that we're using, and then together we can sort of figure out whether or not we can help you. Does that make some sense? Take a look at your calendar, Michael. Pick a day. So pretty nice. Don't squander it there by saying, well, I don't know, sounds like maybe we ought to have a conversation. And then ultimately close it out by setting the agenda for that appointment, the same way I sort of just demonstrated. So the good news about this is you can really go from industry to industry as long as you have the packaging, which is pattern interrupt, mini upfront contract, personal connection, closing for the appointment. I can take any one of yours, Jody or I or any of our trainers can take any one of what you're talking, any one of your, who you're calling on, what they're dealing with, what's the impacts, and help you put together an A+ message for the phone or email. And again, the same thing sort of works on email. If it's email, I'm looking for 100 words or less. No crazy fireworks. Make it a personal connection. Your article in Safety Weekly on predictive analytics, you're opening that. And then keep it simple. Here's an example. Your National Retailers Association presentation. Dave, I had a chance to review your presentation and appreciated the comments you made about getting share of wallet from your top customers. We've worked with a number of major retailers on loyalty programs and line extensions, increasing the annual buying from top customers by anywhere from 37 to 127%. Even if there's not an immediate need and only a down the road interest, are you open to an exploratory phone conversation? I send 4 of these out a day, 2 on InMail and 2 on emails, and I get 1, 2, 3 appointments a week off of it. And the format is this. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Jody. We're going to do a quick lesson learned. Jody's got some closing comments we're going to do on some of the offers we've got for you. But the first line is a personal connection. Do not skip it. If you skip it, you're going to be seen a little bit as spamming, and your reply rate is going to go down. Something like this, when I do it on an InMail or a message I'll get a 40 to 50% reply rate based upon my personal connection and making a good connection. About 50% of the people who reply say they're interested, and it turns into a first-time appointment, whether it be by phone or by post or in person. If you want to make your emails responded to, end them in a question mark, and you'll get up to 30% better response. And this is a really nice one. Feel free to steal it. Even if there's no immediate need and only a down the road interest, are you open to an exploratory phone conversation? So you'll be able to use, again, if I was Michael, I might say, Michael, had a chance to see your presentation in HR Weekly on the changing face of the ACA. I've had a chance to work with a number of local manufacturers here in the Chicago area on increasing employee engagement, productivity, and job fit. And even if there's not an immediate need or down the road interest, are you open to an exploratory phone conversation? So here's what I want you to do next as Jody takes us to the next piece. Let me do a quick recap. Success triangles. Make sure you're working on the right end of the problem. Belief wheel changes your life if you can think about where your head trash is. Time blocking, space blocking, defining your cookbook, staying away from the mistakes, the hate crimes, and the unjusts, structuring your approach call from a pattern interrupt to a mini upfront contract, to a personal connection, to fishing for pain, to closing for the appointment, to post-selling the appointment so there's no backouts, to understanding how to use that messaging in emails, InMails, and LinkedIn's. Take a moment on your question tab, type in a lesson learned. I'll read a few of them out as we end this, but let's type in a couple of lessons learned, and Jody will talk a little bit about potential next steps and additional resources that are available to you.
Some good ones coming across here. hate crime.
Some cool ones
time.
coming across. That's right. Yeah,
Tone
how do
matters.
we define the cookback? Down the road interest, very sublime. Thank you, Carlos. Tone matters, 83%, right? Stop using just, we use it all the time. Not
Blocking
just time
space.
blocking, but space blocking. Love the mini upfront contract, easy to use. Let me take a minute. I'll tell you the reason why I'm calling, right? Need to move to another space to make my calls. Amen, Melissa. I have a home office and a business office. I get out of both places when I'm making them. So, yeah, keep them coming. In the meantime, Jody, take us through what are some of the additional resources available.
Yeah, and I think the one thing as we're wrapping up too, John, is that I think that the thing that came through, and you said a lot there, but the thing that's the theme of that is all authentic. When you're saying, I'm not sure we can help you, I mean, you're saying, maybe not, it's like everything's authentic. So what you've basically done is taken all the cheesiness out of the pushiness and all the fake, kind of stereotypical sales approaches, and it's real. And if it works out, great. If not, it's so straight. And I think that's the part I want to make sure everyone captures here. It's like there's so much you talked about, but it's just authentic. Each thing you said is just real. It's not the cheesy stuff. So that's cool. Okay, so with the potential next steps is that we had a lot we covered today, and we probably could have done another couple hours, right, John? Easily, just on technique alone. But as we were kind of putting together what we were going to talk about, and you and I were planning this, we thought, okay, a couple things. First of all, we do sales training and sales consulting, and we sell. So if we did an entire webinar, which many of you have been to different kinds of webinars and didn't make an offer, that would be kind of weird. So we're making an offer. So we have a potential next step. And if you're a Sandler client and you know all this stuff already, hopefully this was a good recap. But you might be a client and want more in-depth stuff on on this, or you may be someone who's not a Sandler client. You're like, okay, I want to really explore this. So we're offering in all three of our locations, Charleston, Pittsburgh, and then Chicago area in Northbrook. We're going to be offering a Sandler prospecting clinic, and in the clinic, a number of things we're going to be doing. We're going to be exploring a little bit more how to turn cold calls into warm calls, very much elaborating on what some of the things that John just talked about. We're going to be talking about turning social media into a lead generation tool, identifying the mindsets that the fears are holding us back. We're going to be talking about creating relationships that create a steady stream of referrals. And you just touched on referrals. There's a whole program we could do on that. Leaving voicemails that get callbacks, which we just touched on too. But to really have an environment, a live environment, not a webinar, but a face-to-face environment where we get together and are able to go through some of these things. And crafting, where do I go there? Crafting a no pressure cold call script and being able to work on our commercials and really taking that worksheet that you talked about, John, and taking it further. Now, for people on this webinar, if you do want to do something related to the clinic, we're offering some bonuses just for folks who are here of the 500 or whatever that registered. So the prospecting clinic, if you just look at some of the values, it's $14.95 for our prospecting clinic. But as part of the webinar special, we're going to be offering the No Pressure Prospecting Online course, which is really good. It really walks through, and you can do it at your own pace, self-paced learning, and really go through and outside of the clinic to be able on your own pace to really re-watch videos and rethink your exercises, have some downloads, and also having an annual subscription to the Sandler Online Sell Online portion of that. And there's just some really cool stuff in there. You get a disc profile. So if you have a disc profile currently, and you're going to get another one and see if it's the same as that you've had in the past. We also have, John, mine's not advancing there for some reason. There we go. 2 months of access to, the virtual live mastery course. Yeah, I see Matt Newberger on here and a couple of the other Sandler trainers who are involved in this. On a weekly basis, we do a 1-hour live Sandler virtual class. 2 one-on-one coaching sessions you're going to get with a Sandler coach, and that's valued at $1,000. So 2 30-minute follow-up Q&A webinars. So each of our offices, when you go to the clinic, there's going to be 2 follow-up webinars where it's going to be Q&A, what's working, what's not working. We'll be able to have a small group of folks on a webinar as a follow-up to the clinic that we're going to be doing. So it's $58.95 that comes to. And as part of this, you know, we decided, of course, not to charge that for this exclusive group here. But just to put it in perspective, I think you may know that top clients pay us $250 a year for our corporate programs, $45,000 a day for our custom training workshops, and $30,000 for the custom coaching programs. Full access to our typical programs is $12,000. But for this, we're not going to do any of those. But we are, you know, some of you know the seatbelt thing, so put your seatbelt on. It's more than you thought you'd spend on personal development, and so it's something that you have to make a decision. You know, is it something that I'm committed to? So $9.95 is what the offer is, and as part of what we're doing, we're really making sure that based on that, we get the right people in the room. But there are some objections that people have that I'll just bring them up when it comes to these. Sometimes it's you know, hey, that's a lot of money. And if it is, I appreciate that. And if it's not something you want to invest in, I get that. That makes sense. I could do it myself. You may be like a, you know, do your own cavity work and make your own bread kind of person. So this may not be for you, but it may. I've done things like this in the past and they didn't work is something we hear. We also hear, I'm not sure I want to invest in myself. I want my company to do it. I want someone else to do it. And that's something you got to decide and really how you're controlling your destiny going forward. And I can't make the date is one that we get quite a bit. No matter what date we pick, there's going to be conflicts. But we also know that when we have a date that's critical, no matter what it is, personally or professionally, we're going to figure out a way to make it. So here's the dates: June 6th in Charleston and Pittsburgh, you know, one in each location, and then June 26th in Chicago and Northbrook. Now here's the thing for the clinic is that we are limiting it to smaller groups. You know, we do, John, when you do your talks and I do them at the Sandler Summit, we have 1,500 people in a lot of those workshops we do. Yeah. But we're keeping these small, so we're limiting it to 25 people for this. So 25 people is going to be our maximum.
Per location. Yeah, per location.
Per location. And you know, as we wrap up, because we're right against the clock here, there's the bonus Sandler lesson. I remember David Sandler, hearing him talk about how, you know, if you're going to get others to make the decision, you know, you got to make decisions yourself. And so for this, if you think the clinic is something that you want to commit to, if it's something that you want to really work on yourself and invest in yourself, both the money and the time, and most importantly, the effort to make some changes and the commitment to do it, then it might make some sense. So we know that deadlines create action. So we have 48 hours. You'll see when you go to the sign-in place, if you're going to sign up, there'll be a countdown clock, and we're just going to offer 48 hours. And if you want to get on in after the 48 hours, you can just pay for the prospecting clinic. You just won't get the extra stuff with the coaching and stuff, but it's still a good value. And so we're gonna in your chat box right now. I looked at it here. Lindsay, looks like Lindsay sent it out and Ben sent it out. Is that if you click on the link in your chat box, it'll take you right to the registration page. And the registration page looks something like this. And when you get to that, you'll click on whatever location is yours, that the one you would want to go to. And John, I'm not advancing there. I want to just show that next page. There we go. You'll get a sign-in sheet similar to this. You put your information in, and you're locked and loaded, ready to go. If you're past the 25, it'll just say that we're sold out, and you didn't make it in. But you know, right now there's space, I know. So $9.95 is the number. If you want to invest that, go to the site. But keep in mind that when we're looking at where you at in your progression of prospecting, you might have the knowledge, but do you have the skills and the habits? Or you might have the knowledge and the skills, but not the habits. Or you might not even have the knowledge that we talked about today. So wherever you're at, if you don't come to the clinic, that's fine. Just take something we did today and put it in place. But if you know in your heart of hearts that you're not going to do it on your own, and you need some help, and you want some assistance from some of the top Sandler trainers, it might make sense to sign up for the clinic. So,
yeah. And if the dates don't work, Jody, reach on out. You know, we've got a number of different resources and programs available, including that online course as well. But that link is in your chat box. So click on the link, take a look around. I'm sure we'll have a chance to engage. I, for one, really appreciate your time. And Jody, I appreciate all the hard work you put into this, you, Ben, and Lindsay, to get us set up. So yes. Thanks everyone for our time. Anything else, Jody, on your mind before we sign off and let the...
Yeah, one last thing I skipped over is that we have a, if anyone's kind of on the fence on the clinic, if we have a money back guarantee at that halfway point of the clinic, like halfway through it. If you're like, this is not for me, you just come up and say, not for me, this is not good, and we'll give you your money back. And no problem. I mean, it's just, we want you to get the value. We want it 10x. We want everyone who comes in that room to get a 10x return. We want, if you're paying $995, we want a $10,000 upside. We want you to look at that and say, this is $10,000 into my career. This is like a no-brainer. And if we can't deliver 10x value, then I'm in the wrong business. So I know there's 100x and 1,000x for some folks here. So it's good conversation today, John. Appreciate your input and help and in our team, and hopefully we'll see some of the folks on this call in our clinics.
You bet, we will indeed. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, most importantly, everybody who took valuable time out of their territory. We hope to talk to some of our clients who are on soon, and some potential clients and folks who we'll have a chance to work with, perhaps in the prospecting clinics or some other areas. So thanks so much. I appreciate your time.